As we said, we're going to do place one first, the 2 candidates in place 1. We're going to do place 2 next. We have 3 candidates in that, and then we are going to do
place 3
with 3 candidates in place.
Trick question.
Format will be the same for all of the races. We'll have opening statements of 1 minute each. Every question that we ask will basically be a 1-minute response. We will have closing statements of 2 minutes each. And we have some challenge opportunities.
Yes, that's right. Not in the opening or closing statements, but in the meat of the forum, you can challenge your opponent once or twice.
We're going to do
twice tonight. Okay, a little different this time.
And so if you want to challenge somebody on something that they said, you have 30 seconds to issue your challenge, 30 seconds to respond to the challenge. And we have a great timekeeper here. Everybody please welcome Annika. She is from Liberty High School in political science class, and she is a repeat timekeeper for us because she did such a great job. So in each case, candidates, it'll just be a half and a half and a half. At 2 minutes, she'll raise the sign at 1 minute, then at 30 seconds, 15, and a stop. If you don't stop soon after the stop, the cowbell comes out. There we go.
In this case, more cowbell is not good. Hopefully we don't get to that point. Okay.
Once again, place 1, we have 2 candidates in the race. That is Angela Dunford, Gopal Panangi. Place 2, we have 3 candidates, Marvin B. Love, Natalie Hebert, and Callie Karthik. And in place 3, 3 candidates in that race, Dustin Pascal, Timothy Soto, Stephanie Elat. Each of those is ballot order in case anybody asks. So we'll go from there.
Okay, and as we make our way to the table, I guess we'll let them know too that we're keeping something from the last time, and that is for the opening statements and closing statements. We are not going to decide that order. We have names on slips of paper here, so we'll draw it for your opening statement, and then we'll reverse it for the closing. Does that sound good?
We ready to get started? Everybody else up ready to get started? Put your hands together for our candidates. Let's go ahead and get this thing underway.
Okay, let's see. Who's going first, Tony?
Draw names, and let's see who will go first on their opening statement. Welcome, Angela Dunford, number 1 on the ballot in order, and Gopal Panangi, our incumbent, is number 2 on the ballot there.
But we will be going reverse on the opening. Mr. Gopal, you are first with 1 minute for an opening statement.
Timekeeper ready.
Good evening, everyone. This is Gopal Panangi. I thank each and every one of you for giving me an opportunity to be your advocate. I've been the Board of Trustee for the last 3 years. I would like to focus on the learning laws and then the special education and entrepreneurial programs. These have been my passion, especially the special education and then entrepreneurial skills. And then I also have a nonprofit that provides scholarships to the outgoing students. I've been a resident of Frisco since last 18 years. My daughters are part of Frisco ISD, and then I'm very passionate about our school district. I think we are doing something very great. That is the reason we are adding 2,000 students every year, whereas other school districts are adding around 500 or something less. So I would like to continue on the same trajectory and ensure that I'll give my best so that our students and teachers and the community will get the best from me. Thank you.
Very good. Excellent job on timing. No pressure there. Ms. Dunford, you'd like to go next.
Okay. I'm Angela Dunford. I've got 3 boys in FISD. They're in 2nd, 4th, and 7th grade. I have a degree in microbiology. I've spent over 12 years doing drug development research in the lab for a pharmaceutical company. I've spent a ton of time volunteering. I've been a PTA volunteer for 8 years, and for the last 4 of those years, I've been a PTA officer on that board. I'm also in my 4th year on the SHAC right now, which is a district committee that deals with wellness. A lot of people know me as the person who advocated for a second recess in our elementary schools. So that was something that I did and was successful at getting that second recess, which is often called the Brain Break program now, at all 42 of our elementary campuses. So I'm passionate about student wellness and well-being because I believe that it's critical to creating a foundation for optimal academic learning, as well as for happiness and success in the future as an adult. I think our board is, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both for your opening statements, and we will dive right into the questions. As a reminder, you have the ability to challenge your opponent on their answer twice during this forum, so don't miss your opportunity. Just feel free to speak up and let us know, and then we will start the time on the challenge. So first question, workforce is a topic we talk about often at the Chamber, and it's been challenging across industries, but the last 2 years specifically for educators have been tough. What would you do to help our teachers and prevent more burnout and frustration and them leaving the profession? Ms. Dunford.
Yeah, I think that there's a contributing factor partly to the legislation, and we only have so much control over that. Hopefully we can lobby for some new things there. But there is a lot that we actually can do in our district to fix that, and we need to not just be so quick to dismiss it as somebody else's problem. It's our problem, and we need to do things about it. So some of the things I would do, I've talked to a lot of teachers, and they absolutely are overburdened. Here in Frisco ISD, I think we have an abnormally high amount of assessments that we require of the students, and that's more work for the teachers. We have an abnormally high amount of documentation that takes place online, a lot of meetings. So there's a lot of things that pull teachers away from teaching. And so we have to make sure right now more than ever that we are taking things off of teachers' plates wherever we can so that they can do what they love doing and what they're amazing at, which is teaching. I'd also love to see us create actually a teacher advisory committee that's exclusively volunteer teachers that want to be there, because I think it's a safer environment where they feel safe actually expressing their feedback in an honest way without being afraid of retaliation or anything like that.
Okay, Mr. Panangi, same question.
As you all maybe know, it's called Great Resignation. But fortunately, our school district, we are at 12%, whereas the state level and then the others are like 15, and then Region 10 is around 15%. However, teachers are the essence of what we do at the school district. Because of them, we are excelling in whatever we are doing. What we have done initially is that in 2018 bond, we have increased from, added 1 more percent and then added 3% annual raise. Plus, we also do we also are giving the CARES stipend, and then, we also do the bonus every year, retention bonus. We also have included, because of the COVID and then mental health and situation, we also have included the wellness coordinator. So these are all what we have done, but I would like to continue to do more because, they are the essence, and then, we should need to ensure that, their well-being is taken care of. Just to rebut my opponent, we do the anonymous surveys too.
One of the things that comes up, and you guys both hinted at it, is assessments and accountability. A lot of that is driven by the state. We'll start with you and then come back over. What are your thoughts on terms of local control versus district control when it involves testing and accountability standards?
Most of the assessments and other things are all driven by the legislator and also the TEA. But I sort of love what the Frisco Chamber's legislative initiatives are also to, more local governance than governing the locals. I really like that. And then there has to be some flexibility for the school districts so that, they are taking care of the assessments, and they're not just taking care of only one particular aspect, but the all-round development of a child. That is very, very important. We have started community-based accountability, and I would like to see that fruitified in the next few years so that, we are not just focused on one particular assessment, but looking at the overall growth of the student and the school, how it is performing.
Ms. Dunford?
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of teachers. One of them said to me, she said there's so many assessments in Frisco ISD that she feels like she's just barely finished a post-assessment with her students when it's time to start the next pre-assessment, and she's going, when in the world am I supposed to do the actual teaching of the material that we're assessing? One teacher that I spoke to, a different teacher, she was at Frisco ISD for several years in elementary school, and she just this last year moved to Prosper, okay? And I asked her, I said, well, is it the grass is greener on the other side kind of a thing, because sometimes, we always think it's gonna be better somewhere else, right? And she said, it's night and day. So that tells me it's not just a state thing. And I said, well, what about assessments? Talk to me about that. Do they do a bunch of assessments there in Prosper? She's like, yeah, we do. I said, well, what's the proportion compared to Frisco, would you say? She said, it's about half. So, yeah, there are assessments required by the state, but we have added a lot in our district that we don't have to. We need to take those away that are not necessary.
So follow-up question to that. When you speak about changing assessments, what would your take be on ensuring accountability when you change that?
mean, so we're not saying take away all assessments, right? There are some that are required by the state, and I think that generally the number that are required by the state are adequate, right? When we're looking at assessments also, it's good to look at the types of assessments where this would be the type of assignment I would assign the kids anyways, where it's just a practice and it's like a standard worksheet, as opposed to something that isn't really helpful, especially at the beginning of the school year. You're testing them on stuff that like they haven't learned yet, and you're spending a lot of time, and the students get stuck on this. Oh, I don't know how to do this, and they're feeling bad about themselves even. It's like, well, you're not supposed to know that, and the teachers can tell them that, but I mean, the kids still internalize it a little differently. So let's do assessments that are actually productive. I think we could use a lot of teacher feedback on that, maybe on the committee that I suggested.
Great, thank you for the response. Mr. Panangi, what are your thoughts on current testing requirements and assessments and accountability?
As I said earlier, assessments are definitely required because that will help the teacher or the school district to understand where the particular student is and then take corrective actions. Without having that lack of them, it will not be very, very easy for the teacher to assess. For instance, if certain assessments are there done upfront in the beginning of the year, then especially with the current situation of the learning loss that has happened because of the pandemic, then the teacher, will assess, for example, for a third grader, if they think that, there are certain lessons of the second grade have to be repeated, then, these assessments, initial assessments, will help them to ensure that, they are filling the learning loss.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask an individual question of each of you, and we're keeping track, so everybody's got the same number of questions. Ms. Dunford, you've been quoted as saying that, quote, one of the biggest issues facing FISD is distrust within the community. Do you have any specific examples of what you mean by that, and how would you propose fixing that?
Yeah, I actually do think that's probably one of our very biggest issues. I think our board is made up of a lot of really good people, but it seems like there's a disconnect between the board and the community sometimes, even the board and teachers sometimes. I think there's a lot of things that we can do as a board to fix that. One of the things that really is huge would be reinstating the full-time amount for public comment. So last year, the board took our public comment time in the standard board meetings. It used to be 5 minutes, and they reduced it down to just 1 or 2 minutes, right? That sends a very loud message to the community, regardless of how well-intentioned that is. Nobody else in the entire state of Texas did that, right? A lot of people had things happening at their board meetings last year. We were the only ones that did that and reduced the ability for people to address their board in that forum. And so I think that we have to be careful about those optics and being super transparent, making sure that we are just going overboard, saying we want and we're inviting your input in with surveys, with all kinds of things, just bringing parents in as much as possible.
If you don't mind, can I follow up, and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond to that?
Yeah.
And I don't know all the details, but from the outside, if you allow, I think it's a case of managing the time, and we have great input from our community. We want that. How would you manage the time if you've got 5 minutes and so many deals and still take care of business?
Right, and sometimes when there were a lot of speakers, we would reduce that to 3 minutes, and I think that's reasonable when needed, but down to 1 minute, I've tried multiple times to address the board in a board meeting with 60 seconds to speak, and it's kind of impossible to get a coherent thought out, right? So you can reduce a little bit perhaps when needed, but really we only have one board meeting a month, so if we're there kind of late that night, I think right now there's so much division in our community that it's worth it to just stay late, and let's just make sure people know we want to be here and we want to hear from them.
Good. Would you like to follow up on that, sir?
I would like to reboot what she has said. I do agree that we have reduced in number of minutes. However, we have added one special evening. Earlier, we used to go only once a month towards the school board meetings. Now we have one as community input meeting, which is next week. So in this meeting, we not only have speakers speak non-agenda items, but we also have the ISD available to respond. And then that will be documented, and then that will be put on the website. Other than that, there are various other avenues. The community can email us. They can, our phone numbers are there. They can contact us. They can reach out to their assistant principals or anything. I also, there was a recent issue about DECA. Somebody called me about it. Some of our students could not go. Then I immediately sprung up into the action, spoke to the superintendent. They in turn spoke to the DECA people, and then had our students be allowed to participate virtually. And then some of our students, as we speak, 5 of them are in Atlanta this week to participate. So community input, that one is not the only thing to connect with us.
Good. Thank you. Sorry, I dominated everything.
I would
there.
like to challenge that, if that's all right. I think that the community input night is a great idea in theory, honestly. I think it was well-intentioned. However, it doesn't work because, first of all, there's still that 1 to 2 minute time limit in that input meeting that is specifically designed only to have input, right? And it's still just a 1 or 2 minute time limit. If there's no other business going on, why have we not made that bigger so that people can actually speak? Another thing, it's at 5:15. You have to be there at 5:15 to be able to speak. A lot of people aren't even off work by that time. So it hasn't actually filled the gap that was missing when we took that time away from the main board meeting. So we just have to make sure that, once again, not just that we're doing things, but that it looks to the community like we actually want to hear from them. And so optics are important too.
So I'm just checking. We're new on the challenge thing, so is there an actual challenge on that or more just an observation?
Oh, sorry, just challenging that was an adequate response to the issue there.
And then you'll have an opportunity to rebut.
What she said. As I said earlier, community input is not the only way to communicate with the board or any of the leadership. One of the community input meetings, one of the members who wanted to speak, understanding that it will only take 2 minutes, they only have 2 minutes, they have sent an email to us in the morning, and then that was addressed to the ISD, and then they worked during the day, and then by the time the community input meeting happened on that day evening, this was resolved. So the person used out of the 2 minutes only 1 minute to thank us for taking the action very quickly. So the number of minutes is not a criteria for anybody to say that the community is not, the leadership is not listening.
Just as a reminder on challenges that if we can, we're going to keep those to 30 seconds
Okay,
each way.
can I
But
provide just a quick response to that? Under 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. One of the things I did after only getting to speak for 1 minute at a board meeting is that I did email the remainder of my remarks to the full board, and I put in the very first line, please respond acknowledging receipt so that I know that you've seen my email. So they actually didn't even have to read the whole thing, and I made it very clear, I'm checking to see who has actually read my email, just respond, and I heard from 2 board members. So I'm not saying that nobody ever reads their emails, but that just told me that's not an adequate substitute for being heard in the main board meeting. It's just not.
Very good. All right.
Can I?
30-second follow-up, and then we're moving on to the next question.
A non-response for a particular email should not be considered. There's no transparency in the school district. This website will have all the information. The channels of communication are open from this school level to the district leadership level.
Very good.
Thank you. Okay, so we asked you a specific question. Ms. Dunford will ask you a specific question as well, Mr. Panangi. Having served on the Board of Trustees for 3 years, is there anything that, I don't know if regret's the right word, but anything you would do different in retrospect? And then what is one thing you're very proud of? One of each.
One thing that I'm very proud of is that, as soon as I became a trustee, within about 9 months, we had the pandemic. And then during the spring break in the March 2020, when most of people were either taking vacation or figuring out how the pandemic will impact, the leadership and then the teachers, we worked during that break and then made sure that virtual learning is available, which was unprecedented in any other school district. We just took a 1 day off and then, we started off. So that is something that I'm very, very proud of. And as far as, what is my, what could I do, what is my regret, right? I would like to serve more. I'm completely passionate about giving more and more of myself. So had it been, 6 years or, more, I would like to give more about myself. Another thing that I'm very happy is about adding cricket as one of the things. And then we added a lot of new programs like, in Kate Center, we added cyber security, esports, and then we added National Navy, a Defense Cadet Corps, so many other things we have been adding.
I think Ms. Dunford has the right to respond because we had him. So if you'd like to respond to any of that as well. All right. All right. I'd like to jump in here, and I don't know who all the different endorsements that you do have, but one that came out in this particular race was by the Dallas Morning News that endorsed Mr. Panangi. Mr. Panangi, with that as an endorsee, what is it that you feel about that endorsement that you'd like to promote the most, and then we'll have you be able to respond as well.
The endorsement speaks about what I have done and then what my background is. So what I have done in the last 3 years and then how I became a board of trustee. I became a board of trustee by being part of the Programs and Facilities Evaluation Committee, Long Range Planning Committee, by being a nonprofit founder, and then providing scholarships to the students and all. So that speaks a lot. And then based on my work, not only the Dallas Morning News, but the mayor of City of Frisco, and then the state representative Matt Shaheen, and then so many others have endorsed me. I feel very good about it. It sort of gives me more power, or more encouragement to give more of myself back to the community, and then see our teachers and then our students are well taken care of, and then they are given more and more opportunities so that they'll blossom in the future they are creating for themselves.
Very good. Ms. Dunford, do you believe that in the Dallas Morning News endorsing your opponent, was there anything that they overlooked or that you'd like to bring to their attention?
Well, I just noticed that I think that they probably were a little torn on it. I noticed in the article that 4 separate times they provided a criticism or a recommendation of something that they thought Gopal needed to change. And they provided 0 criticisms of me and anything that I said or anything that I've done or my platform or anything. So I thought that was interesting that he still ended up with the endorsement. I recognize he's done a lot of good things, but something that came out of that article that was very clear, that was the Dallas Morning News opinion, was that there is a disconnect, and that's what I've been talking about, and that they need to start listening and doing things differently than they've done. Even if they think, gosh, we've done this, we've done the community input night, we've done this and that, it's not working. We got to start listening to the community and see, what does the community want? Let's go with that.
So over the last couple years, a number of issues that have been challenging for the district, and I think some would say are political or have been politicized, have moved into the schools discussion. Everything from mask mandates, recently books, the list goes on. What, in your view, is the role of Frisco ISD as it relates to our students in these issues? And which of these issues would you be passionate about tackling, and how? Ms. Dunford.
Yeah, I think that first and foremost, your responsibility is to listen to all constituents and to genuinely listen. And when I say that, it also means that we don't automatically default to defense of whatever it is that we're doing. That, hey, we're doing everything great, or it's somebody else's fault, it's not our fault. We don't mess up because we're Frisco ISD. Frisco ISD is amazing. Like, everyone acknowledges that, right? There's a lot of things we're doing right. There's so much good stuff going on in our district. I love it. But there are things that we mess up. And we have to, first of all, be willing to apologize when we've messed up, and we need to listen to varying points of views. And I feel like that's something I'm actually really good at, is being able to sit in the middle and put my stuff on a shelf for a second and really try to step into that parent or that taxpayer's perspective and say, where are they coming from here? What's their background? What are they seeing? And can I, for a second, view the world through that lens? And if I can do that, I'm going to be much more capable of making a better decision. And I have to do that on both sides, right? Because you work for everybody when you're elected.
Mr. Panangi, same question.
So student-centric, teacher-centric decisions with deep connection with the community is what I would like to work on. And then our board has done that too. For instance, one of the things that was very, very important was, all the opportunities that we have created for the students. Plus also we took care of the teachers with some of the bonuses and stipends. And at the same time, we are also listening to the community. We are not very arrogant and then saying that we are not taking any input. For instance, in yesterday's board meeting, we have taken the input about the books that are happening, and then we have put some processes in place. And then is that the final thing? No, we continuously tweak and then make sure that we are working to ensure that we are giving our best back to the community. We have a responsibility. We are there because of the community. The parents from other school districts are moving to us because we are doing something good. That is the reason we are adding 2,000 students or more. So we continue to be connected with the community and then ensure that we are giving our best, and decisions are focused on the opportunities for the students and taking care of the wellness of the teachers.
Good. Ms. Dunford, as opposed to an open race that there is another place, this actually has an incumbent in place. Right. You, for a lack of a better way of putting it, are telling the voters, fire this board of trustee and put yourself in instead. How would you justify that argument for the voters? And then we'll give you an opportunity to respond as to why you should stay. Ms. Dunford.
I mean, generally, I think that it's always good for there to be a choice for voters, regardless. And so I noticed that there were 3 people running in each of the other seats already. We had lots of different options to choose from, and nobody was challenging Mr. Gopal. And I thought I wanted to make sure that every voter is able to exercise that right to make a choice. And so I put myself in on that spot, and I think that it's just time for some fresh perspective. You know, he was one of the people that did not reply to my email. He was very quick to reply when he was running his campaign 3 years ago when I was busy advocating for recess, and he was very much in favor of it, and I said, that's awesome, you've got my vote. I actually voted for him. But since that time, in the last 3 years, I haven't gotten a single reply on any of my emails from him. So I think he's a good guy, and I know that lots of other people have not had that experience, okay? So I want to make that clear. I don't think he's terrible. That just happened to be my experience, and that raised a bit of a question for me.
Mr. Panagi, as to why should you tell the voters why they should keep you in place?
I've not been a candidate who has showed up for the 2019 election and then showing up again now. I've been continuously connected with the community, continuously working with the community. For instance, I've just told you an example of how I acted on the DECA. So there are so many instances I've been continuously connecting with the community and then doing my best. So that is the reason. And then I'm very passionate about serving our community, keeping that in view. I'm continuing to focus or rededicate myself to our school district. That is the reason I'm running again.
Thank you. So now, in the interest of time, we would like to give each of you the opportunity to ask your opponent a question. So we will start with you, Mr. Panangi. What question would you like to ask Ms. Dunford?
Thanks for voting for me last time.
You're welcome.
So my question is, I'm glad that you're coming forward to advocate for our teachers, our students, and for our community. And you will also be advocating us, you'll be representing us when you meet our state legislators and other things too. So you have to be very positive about what our district is doing. So what are the 2 things that you think our district is doing very well that you will share with the community as our advocate?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. And I love having the chance to talk about the positive stuff because we do get a lot of questions that focus on the criticisms, right? So 2 of the things that I think we have done just incredibly well, I think we do an absolutely killer job on making sure our kids have lots of exposure to the performing arts starting at a very young age. So, we have choir for 4th and 5th graders. We got Meet the Instrument Night for kids going into band into middle school, where it really builds that program. I think that's at a lot of our middle schools that they do that for the 5th graders coming in. The band programs and the middle school level, it's just, it's amazing. It is so much better than anything we had when I was a kid. And then that continues once you get into high school. So I think we do really, really well with the performing arts and theater included in that, giving our kids lots of amazing opportunities for that. The other thing I think we do really well is that we have a lot of really innovative programs at the high school level that give kids real life experience. So we've got the Incubator EDU that gives them that entrepreneurial experience. We've got the CTE Center that gives them exposure to a lot of different fields, and even okay, there you go.
You could go on and on with
I
positives.
could go on and
Okay.
on. Absolutely.
Well, and now it is your turn to ask Mr. Panangi a question.
Sure. I would like to know what is something that you uniquely brought to the table during your time that wasn't brought up by anybody else, so not necessarily something that you helped with, because obviously as a board you work on as a team on a lot of things, but what's a new idea that you brought to the table that you feel has made a really big difference for the students?
Thanks for asking that. So I've been very passionate about serving the community, because of which I became a trustee. But one thing that I bring to the table is the diversity. I was the first person of color to be elected in the Frisco School District. So based on my background, I bring certain values and certain positions about my background. And another thing that I'm very proud of is that introduction of cricket as a sport in our middle schools. We just had an opportunity to work with our leadership, provide them what the sport is about, tell what a batting or pitching or everything is, or bowling, we call it. And then, making sure that, we have a training program available. Again, we just started off as an indoor sport, but, very soon I would like it to be exposed to be an outdoor sport and also have it available in high school and also in middle, or maybe, third or fourth grade or fifth grade in the elementary school. So I'm very proud about that.
Very good. Thank you both. Great job on the time. And hopefully, if I didn't take your closing arguments away from you with the Dallas or the keep or not keep, we'll now go to closing arguments. And Ms. Dunford, you are up first on closing arguments. Once again, this will be 2 minutes. And then Mr. Panangi.
All right, so we need somebody right now who can provide a fresh perspective on our board, someone who knows what parents are feeling and can address a lot of the issues in a new way. We need somebody who sees that so many of our teachers truly are crumbling inside and who's willing to acknowledge that there are things that our district can do about it, and it's not just somebody else's job, and we're not going to put 100% of the blame on parents or on legislators. We need somebody who sees that some of the things we're doing, like putting kids on a screen for several hours a day, especially at the secondary level, aren't actually good for them. And it's not necessarily helping them learn their best, and it's not feeding their natural developmental needs. We need somebody who understands the balance between making sure kids learn the standards while also making sure that they can actually function in the real world when they go off to college and careers, because they're incentivized to show up to class prepared, to take that test, and to turn in their assignments on time. And we've kind of gotten away from that. Yes, right now there's a lot of division in our community. We see that a lot. So we need somebody who's capable of actually bringing the community together and healing some of the division. So we need someone who's willing to listen to all concerns on all sides with sincerity and with empathy. We need someone who's willing to apologize to the public when our district messes up, and that has happened recently, right? But an actual apology, I think, goes a long way in healing some of that hurt and that division. We need someone who knows how to make parents feel welcome and like they have a seat at the table, not just that they're tolerated. So when we do things like cut the public comments time, or when we present rezoning changes with only one option and don't actually send out a survey to ask people what their opinion is on a few options, it does the opposite. So we can't have those things happening anymore. We need to bring our community together, do an honest reflection of the areas we have to own and improve upon, and then roll up our sleeves and get to work. And that's something I'm willing to do. I'm willing to be a leader who listens, and I'm a proven advocate for students.
Thank you very much. Right on time. Closing arguments, once again, 2 minutes.
Thanks for telling about some of my qualities while you were telling. So I've been in Frisco School District for the last 18 years. My kids have been part of Frisco School District. I've been part of several committees before I became part of the school board member in 2019. I've been, very actively connected with the city because the partnership with the city is very, very important, because of which we have our opportunities for our kids in STAR, Comerica Center, and then now in PGA. And then my relationship with the Frisco City is pretty strong. I have the endorsement from our mayor and then other council members, John Keating, who's here. And the relationship with the state legislators is very, very important too. I'm very closely connected with Mr. Shaheen, Mr. Holland, and then, even when the virtual learning bills were happening, I was also texting Mr. Patterson. So that relationship is very important, which I bring. Plus, another very important thing is, I'm passionate about giving back to the community. So I've been doing that since the last 2 years. I'm not a candidate who just listens. I'm a candidate who listens and then takes action. One of the example was the DECA. Also, during the rezoning situation, I was the candidate who has visited several communities and then took it back to the leadership and then found certain solutions and then worked on it. Plus, I am also very passionate about entrepreneurial programs, the incubator EDU that you have mentioned, the ISM and then the YEA. So these programs are very, very important because, the students are good, maybe good academically, sports or fine arts, but, we need to bring an all-round future readiness to them. So I'm very passionate about them, and then I'll work on them. Also work on reducing the learning loss and then the mental health. These are some of the tactical things that we need to really work on based on what happened in the last 2 years. And then another thing that has been closer to my heart when I was here and then spoke in 2019 is the special education. That group is very important, and I'll continue to focus on them. Thank you so much.
Very good. Thank you too very much. It takes a lot to be willing to serve your community. And ladies and gentlemen, in place one, these are your two candidates, and we urge you to go out and vote for one of them. And hopefully this year, we won't have any runoffs in this race. Do not tie each other, okay? Please. So, ladies and gentlemen, please thank the folks from place one. We're going to bring up place two at this point in time, switch out cards and waters, and we're going to do a very quick 1 or 2 minute switch over here.